Yes. Hello, good morning, everybody. My name's Silvana Masella, and welcome to our 6th cyberwatching.eu webinar. I represent Trust IT and cyberwatching.eu this morning. It's a very special one today. It's called Pilots for the European Cybersecurity Competence Networks and How Can Your SME Benefit? We'll be learning about 4 brand new Horizon 2020 pilot projects that will develop a sustainable European cybersecurity competence network. So congratulations to you on our webinar today who have succeeded in getting this proposal and project through. We're also very excited to be joined today by each of the representatives from each of the projects who we hope will underline how your pilot supports SMEs and how clearly you all fit together. We're also pleased to welcome cyberwatching.eu's project officer, Ninetta Polemi, who'll say a few words after the intro. So the projects Concordia, ECHO, SPARTA and CyberSec Europe will tackle a number of cybersecurity challenges which Europe faces head-on through a series of demos, which you'll hear later on from each of the reps, in a wide range of vertical markets, such as eHealth, telecommunications and finance, and importantly, to help bridge the cybersecurity skills gap that Europe faces. Now, the European Commission has invested significant funding in these 4 projects, and today's webinar will look at exactly what these projects will bring to the table and, importantly, what their impact will be on Europe's business community, both small and large. So if we go to the agenda, we have a very tight, fast-moving paced agenda, and with presentations from each project which will address these points. First, we have an intro, as I said before, the EC on how they expect the projects will support them in pooling EU's cybersecurity expertise and prepare the EU cybersecurity landscape for a more secure digital Europe. We'll then hear from Justina and the Digital SME Alliance, partner in cyberwatching.eu, on an SME perspective in relation to the projects. We'll hear from each of the Competence Centre projects and find out objectives and the implications for European businesses and the digital single market. I repeat again, the 4 projects are Concordia, ECHO, SPARTA and CyberSec for Europe. So just zooming in, just for your benefit, on the numbers on who's listening in today, and you can see the profile overview here. And interestingly, we have a very high percentage of SMEs on the call, as this webinar clearly should benefit you specifically. We've factored in 2 Q&A slots from our agenda that you can interact with the speakers and put your questions to them. So before we kick off, let me just zoom in again to tell you about CyberWatching and the project, which is, as I said, the 6th webinar. We are a support action to the many EC-funded initiatives in this space. In our 4-year project, we identify, map and support clustering between research and innovation, cybersecurity and privacy projects in Europe, with almost 350 identified in our online observatory. We bring these projects together at events such as this webinar we have now and consultation meetings to help foster collaboration and facilitate interaction, specifically with the business community, which we'd like to have as our biggest impact when the project ends. In May, we'll be launching a brand new revamped website for Cyberwatching, which will provide a new user-friendly community-based environment for both projects and SMEs to engage. And if you see on the slide, so please make a note in your diary as a save the date. On May the 28th in Brussels, we'll be holding our 2nd consultation meeting. Consultation meaning the gathering of all these initiatives together, which is a key event for all of us to come and take stock and also provide policy recommendations to the European Commission. So without further ado, I'd like to move on to our first speaker, who's Ninetta Polemi. She's a program manager and policy officer for the European Commission in cybersecurity technologies and capacity building, and she'll be providing a high-level overview of towards a European cybersecurity competence network and what that actually means. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the webinar, and over to you, Ninetta. Ninetta, can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes, we've got you. Perfect.
This is Ninetta Polemi. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm here with my colleague Konstantinos Dantinos, and I would like first to congratulate CyberWatching for organizing this webinar, and I very much look forward also to the 28th of May event. I would like to start, and probably with some historic information of how everything started. On September 12, 2018, the Commission proposed a regulation setting up a European cybersecurity industrial technology and research competence center with a network of national coordinator centers. This proposal was in the communication of 2018/630. Now, the overall mission of the Competence Center and the network is to help the Union retain and develop the cybersecurity technological and industrial capacities necessary to secure its digital single market. This goes hand in hand with the key objective to increase the competitiveness of the Union cybersecurity industry and turn cybersecurity into competitive advantage of other European industries. Now, with this regulation that is actually now, it's currently being negotiated in the Council and the Parliament. Now, our next step actually in the Commission was to fund these 4 pilot projects, as you mentioned, Concordia, ECHO, SPARTA, CyberSec for Europe. And these 4 pilot projects actually have been launched under the Horizon 2020 program. And their goal is to provide the necessary evidence for the effective establishment of the European Cybersecurity Center and the network. So we are expecting from these 4 pilot projects to cluster, collaborate, and provide holistic views on how to set up the governmental structure of the center and the network, the processes and the procedures that need to be followed for the effective governance of the center and the network. We are also expecting to inform us about the cybersecurity challenges in various areas of their choice, of course, and of their expertise on cybersecurity. And up to now, we have seen that these 4 pilot projects have selected various sectors from finance to cyber defense to health. So we are expecting to inform us about the cybersecurity challenges that industries and SMEs have in these sectors. Also to prepare roadmaps for addressing the cybersecurity challenges. Probably not all of them, but the ones definitely that they will work on, that they will make prototypes. So we are expecting final roadmaps on the ones that they will develop prototypes as well. Also, we are expecting the alignment of the curricula of various cybersecurity courses and programs of their choice. They can be like, they can work on aligning the curriculum on cybersecurity courses, for example, on network security, on IoT security. They need to decide, and we are expecting complementarity of efforts. Now, about the regulation and its interplay with SMEs. Absolutely. This proposed regulation is there to support SMEs. Actually, from the beginning of capturing this idea for this proposal, we involved SMEs from the start. We had business and SMEs they participated in various of our meetings in order to provide their ideas, give us input of how to shape and introduce the needs of the SMEs through this proposed regulation. Actually, I can remind you that you had the 21st of March in 2018 consultation meeting that SMEs were invited, participated, and definitely their ideas were taken into account. We also had various meetings with EXO that they present the cybersecurity SMEs and companies in Europe. So SMEs were involved in the shaping of this regulation. Now, about the objectives of this regulation regarding to SMEs, definitely the regulation, the objective is to contribute to the wide deployment of the latest cybersecurity solutions across the economy and in particular by SMEs. If you read Article 4, for example, it explicitly says that the objective of this ecosystem that will be created of the European Cybersecurity Center and the network, the objective is to acquire, upgrade, operate, and provide access to cybersecurity industrial and research infrastructures and related services to a wide range of users across the union, especially for SMEs. And actually, the ecosystem, the objective is to contribute to the wide deployment of the latest cybersecurity solutions across the economy for SMEs in particular. Also, in the same article, it's mentioned and it's been emphasized that the objective is to support cybersecurity startups and SMEs to connect to potential markets and to attract investment, including venture capital. So this ecosystem, this new cybersecurity ecosystem that's been proposed, it will definitely help businesses and especially SMEs to reduce their costs related to their efforts in designing innovative, secure products or in their efforts to fight cybersecurity incidents, attacks, by getting less expensive, innovative cybersecurity solutions, and also the necessary guidance and assistance to resolve their cybersecurity problems. In general, we support SMEs, and I will give another example. We just launched, of course, we have many projects under the Horizon 2020 program supporting the needs of SMEs by by designing innovative projects, by helping them in clustering the activities with the various stakeholders. So it is our effort in the European Commission and especially from H1 to support SMEs. Actually, we just launched 2 calls under the Horizon 2020 Topics 2019 in the Societal Challenges 7 work program. And the first topic is DS03, entitled Digital Security and Privacy for Citizens and small and medium enterprises and micro enterprises. This is a very one of the important topics that actually is a continuation of other series of topics that we had in the past. But now this topic was launched in March. It's an innovative action. Its objective is to protect citizens, SMEs, for their security, privacy, and personal data, and also defend SMEs and micro enterprises and protect them from their security and privacy incidents. Also, we have the call DS05. That is again, it's a new call. The submission of both of the calls is in August 22nd. And DS05 is entitled Digital Security, Privacy, Data Protection and Accountability in Critical Sectors. And in this call as well, we try to support the needs of SMEs that are active in the multimodal transport area and also in the healthcare area. We have various other topics that are open. For example, in our light program, we will have new calls that will open on 25th of July with deadline of submission November 19th. And these calls will be actually on cybersecurity, privacy, audit, certification, and standardization, on trusted supply chain of ICT system, and on designing and developing privacy-friendly and secure software and hardware. And of course, SMEs are in the heart of these topics as well. This will be ICT 08 2019 and ICT 13 2018 topics as well. So as you can see, during Horizon 2020 as well, we are very much supporting SMEs for their cybersecurity problems. In the future, we propose this regulation that is very important for helping SMEs, and also we will see in the next MFF many actions, many initiatives for the support of SMEs. Thank you very much for giving me the time. I hope I did not abuse your schedule and your agenda.
Ninetta, that was wonderful. Thank you very much for that overarching vision and zooming in also on the future calls. The heart and soul of all of this, as you've said, are the SMEs and how to and invite them clearly into this cybersecurity ecosystem. Having said that, there's also the marketplace on cyberwatching, so it would be great to see a constant flow of all of those SMEs in these pilot projects who are also entering their assets and results as part of the cyberwatching marketplace. So thank you once again, Ninetta. I hope clearly you can find out more details about the future calls on the EC portal for funding and tenders. Now, over to our second speaker is Justina Bielauskaite, who's a project manager, also a partner in cyberwatching, but she's a project manager at the European Digital SME Alliance, the first and largest EU association created to represent exclusively SMEs in the ICT sector. Now, Justina will be giving us a brief overview on stimulating cybersecurity, the SME environment, CyberWatching EU, and the European Competence Centres. Over to you, Justina. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Silvana. Good morning, everybody. So today I have just a brief presentation because I know you're very excited to listen to the actual pilot project. So I would like just to set the tone to demonstrate why do we actually need all these projects, including CyberWatching and the pilots. What is the environment in which SMEs work, and why do we need this stimulation? So first of all, only 50% of Europeans said that they don't feel informed about cybersecurity, meaning half of Europeans have no idea about cyber resilient behavior online. In addition, same can be said about the enterprises, because only half of them in Europe report that they have instructed their staff on cyber secure behavior. And this number becomes even lower when we talk about SMEs, meaning that only 40% of SMEs have actually talked to their staff about cybersecurity, while only 1/3 of them have said that they have cybersecurity policies in place, meaning that there is still little of understanding between small and medium enterprises about the cyber risks. Meanwhile, we can see that 0.8 trillion of money might be lost by 2021 due to cybercrime, and this is counted even without reputational damage. So you can imagine what is the amount of the cost, and obviously SMEs are the ones that have the biggest damages, because 60% of them who suffer from cyber attacks actually do not recover afterwards, and most of them, 60% of them, have to shut down within the 6 months. So these are really dramatic numbers, and given the low awareness on cybersecurity, it's obvious that in this environment, we definitely need, first of all, to raise awareness and train the staff of SMEs, because SMEs are crucial in most of the value chains in Europe, as we know that more than 99% of all the companies in Europe are SMEs. So definitely there is a need to raise awareness, and there is a need for pilot projects to do as much as we can in this field. Talking about cybersecurity provider SMEs, so those who are actually digital companies who do know about cyber risks and who do provide cybersecurity solutions, again, Europe is not leading. As we know, global cybersecurity market by 2020 should reach 1 billion euros, while Europe only contributes to 1/3 of this global market, having around 37 billions by 2020. There are a bit different calculations, but this one was taken from Mordor Intelligence research. About 75% of most innovative top 500 cybersecurity companies in the world are American, while only 10% of them are European. This might be a reason of a bit lower investment in Europe compared to the United States, but also because of market fragmentation. We know that among top European cybersecurity companies, in the entire market, only 15 biggest providers constitute only 1/3 of all the companies, meaning that other 2/3 in the European market are small enterprises that mostly work locally. So they have little knowledge of what is outside of their country or outside of the region, which leads to them duplicating each other's effort, often spending a lot of time, financial investment, and other efforts to invent something what possibly already exists in the market. So even if I'm a cybersecurity SME, having some great innovative ideas, sometimes I might just buy the components for my own solution and just do something on the top. I don't need to invent a bike all over again from zero. However, I might lack knowledge that these kind of solutions already exist in the market. Now, what could be done? We can look at good practice examples. For example, US is said to be leading due to concentration of knowledge, huge investment, and effectively working funding mechanisms, while Israel, that many European companies often look at as very good practice example and as a perfect environment for cybersecurity SMEs to function, seems to have this good standing in the world thanks to close collaboration between different stakeholders, such as industry, academia, and government. In addition to some of concrete actions taken by the government, such as setting up a national cybersecurity incubator. And therefore, SMEs are really grateful to the European Commission, which is increasingly funding various cybersecurity projects through Horizon 2020 program and upcoming Horizon Europe program that will be in place after 2021, and as well through upcoming Digital Europe program. In addition to all of this, as Nineta has already introduced, the European Commission is going to launch Cybersecurity Competence Network and the Center, while the 4 projects that will be presented today are piloting this kind of network. So in this environment, we are glad that we have CyberWatching EU, which is also funded by Horizon 2020, and which aims to help this environment to further flourish. So now I just briefly introduce what CyberWatching EU is doing for companies, and then we can jump to already the 4 pilot projects that will definitely also contribute to this SME cybersecurity environment. So what the CyberWatching EU does, first of all, it has observatory and research and innovation service catalog that does exactly the thing that we are missing in Europe. It lists all the projects and all the potential solutions in cybersecurity that exist in Europe. Therefore, SMEs can come and simply see in our service catalog what is already in place, what has already been done, what has been funded, what is happening in other regions. It's easy to do because we have a taxonomy. So based on the technical field in which company operates, it can see what has been done by academia and research environment and what they possibly don't need to find by themselves. In addition, we have Marketplace, where SMEs who are cybersecurity providers can publish their own innovative solutions. Meanwhile, users can benefit, can come, find these solutions and buy them. So we will be choosing between solutions provided by other SMEs, but also by research and innovation projects funded nationally or by the European Commission. Why is it better to use Marketplace? Because it's actually cheaper than the normal market prices would be. It has an easy filtering that would allow any company without even having a base knowledge on cybersecurity to find what they need. Also because they can establish direct contact with the providers. We additionally, by registering, get a promotional space for their own company profiles. They will soon get even personalized profiles that will allow them to find solutions best fitting their company. And finally, we also provide possibilities to not only promote the project in our social media and our marketplace, but also to speak in our events and present the most innovative solutions and possible usage of them in our events and webinars. Finally, we have an SME and user club that is meant mostly for SME users, for those who really lack cybersecurity solutions or don't know what it is and would like to know more. Because here we have not only some visibility opportunities, but we also provide some assistance. If you decide to validate and try some cybersecurity solutions that are in SME and user club for free, you will get guidance how to install or how to use it. You will also get some of guiding materials, guidelines, or toolboxes produced by CyberWatching EU for your company. In addition, you will be able to test, validate some of the solutions produced by other research innovation projects in Europe. And finally, you will have networking and visibility opportunities offered by our project. Therefore, this is what CyberWatching EU contributes for the SME environment. And we also hope to help the 4 pilot projects that will be presented today to reach out to the cyber community. So we are glad to have more than 50 people today interested in our webinar. However, we have community much wider than that, and we will definitely help to connect the 4 pilot projects with the research and development community and cybersecurity industry, especially SMEs. Also, if some of our listeners today by accident missed to follow in social media one of the pilot projects, you must definitely follow CyberWatching EU. That will not allow you to miss any of the news or updates that the projects have for you. And also we will provide networking and cooperation opportunities through our workshops, webinars, and consultation meeting that has already been promoted before. So in this case, we really invite the 4 pilot projects to meet with other projects, as well as potentially with some of the SMEs that we will invite to the event. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justina, very much for that interesting input and the highlights, obviously, that we can do and support, we hope, in cyberwatching.eu. Moving swiftly along, our next speaker is the first of our 4 projects, and that's Guillaume Bonfante, who is an assistant professor at Lorraine University, and he is going to zoom in on Concordia, the cybersecurity competence for research and innovation. If I can ask all our 4 speakers coming up next, try and think how your pilot is going to support SMEs, as it obviously is related to the webinar at hand. Over to you, Guillaume. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, and welcome everyone. I'm very happy the European Commission organized such a webinar. Actually, as an academic, we see that it's so easy to build up some attacks and find some possibility to really catch or to find some way of introducing some malware within almost any targets that in some ways it's very frightening. And so I think it's a very good point to organize such a webinar. So I'm Dr. Guillaume Bonfante, and actually I will speak more from my company point of view. So it is CyberDetect, and CyberDetect is the leader of the SME group of the project, which is called Concordia. So if you see at the circle on the right, you will see at 5 o'clock somewhere a SME area. And so this is to show that we have a strong concern about SMEs. So the main goal of Concordia is to develop the next generation of cybersecurity solutions. That is, there are 2 points. First, it's about research, that is to build up new solutions. And there is another point of view, which is behind. There is a lot of things that talk about human and all that, and so there is a strong need for some formations or so for teaching. So there are 5 pilots within the project. That is 5 areas which are of concerns for us. So the first one is telco. So it is led by Telnor. And actually the main issue of telco is about automated processing of threat intelligence information. And so it's clear that telco is at the center of the network, and so it's at the center of dissemination of malware. And that's a very central point. The second pilot is about finance, and it is led by Kaicha. So the finance is very specific due to regulation rules, which are very strict. And the third one is transportation. It is led by BMW. And here there is a special focus on e-mobility. Okay. Naturally, health is, and especially for computer science, the issue are around protection of data and privacy. Okay, and the last one is about defense, and there is a special focus on unmanned aerial systems. So that's it. All these 5 pilots are led so by some pioneer in the area, and well, that's the organization of Concordia. So, oops. Oh, well, okay. Why SMEs? SMEs are targeted by cyber attack. So I here mentioned 43% of cyber attack target small business. Justina mentioned 60% depends on the size of the business. But anyway, the main issue is that usually when a small enterprise is targeted by some hacker, when the attack succeed, it means very strong consequences for the SME. and especially a lot of these SME will just simply die after they are attacked. Then, so what is Concordia about? So it's a consortium, and we have two main goals. The first one is to give some courses, and these courses are thought to help SMEs protecting their business. And especially there is attention to the fact that the main issue for an SME is to self-evaluate itself. Because, well, if you don't know if your protection is good, well, you can't do anything with that. So there are training platforms that are planned to be offered to the SMEs, and we know that, well, actually, not all SMEs have the same financial potential. So there is a freemium access to the training courses, and there is a premium one with more functionalities. All this will be made available within the year. So another point on Concordia is about so the SMEs that are offering some services, and the main tool that we are offering is a virtual lab, and in this virtual lab, all SMEs that are offering some solutions will be able to test their solutions within the virtual lab, so that they will be able to show what is their value, and they will find some advices on the market and business. And I just wanted to show what we are doing as an SME within the project, because actually it's an example of what can be done within this framework. So CyberDetect is developing morphological analysis. It's a spin-off of a lab. And we are offering a solution which is dedicated to big group. But all these big groups are offering offering Gori in a special crafted service for SMEs. So the service, for instance, is planned to be a software service system. So it is actually tested by the French defense, and we have developed, we sold it to some Belgium enterprise company. Sorry. And last, so we are a little bit late. I will let everyone so ask questions. So G.Bonfant at CyberDetect, or the consortium management, Dreo Rodosek Gabriela. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Guillaume. In fact, just a message for all of you, as a couple of you have already asked, these slides will be available online on the platform underneath the section dedicated to webinars for cyberwatching, so you do have access to them. We do have a special questions and answer after the next presenter, who's Mark Miller, so please feel free to write the questions in the chat as well, also for our previous speakers. So Mark Miller is the CEO of Conceptivity. He's also the Vice Chair of EXO, the European Cybersecurity Organization, Vice Chairman for the European Organization for Security. And Mark will be introducing CyberSec for Europe, securing the competitiveness of Europe and enabling European economic growth while protecting European society. Over to you, Mark. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Silvana. Just a very quick comment.
Sorry, Mark. I've just interrupted. Could you just put your slides in presentation mode for us?
Okay.
Yeah,
it's not showing the slides correctly.
It is, but they're not just. That's the one. Yeah. If you click on that, let's see. No. Yes, there. Click on that.
Okay, got it. They're in presentation mode. Super. Okay. Well, I'm going to go through the CyberSec for Europe explanation. And first of all, just to make a quick comment, I am the vice chairman for the European Cybersecurity Organization, specifically for SMEs. I'm also the vice chairman of the European Organization for Security, also for SMEs. So in some ways, Conceptivity, my company, provides already a direct link toward the other elements of the SMEs, in addition to what's done by the Digital SME Alliance, which is made up of SMEs. So I was just trying to change my slides. Okay, there we go. So what is CyberSec for Europe? We have 43 project partners. We got 40 letters of global support from every.
Sorry, Mark. Sorry
Yep.
to interrupt. Yeah, your slides aren't moving for us.
Okay.
Is the computer connected to the screen?
Yes. Okay. I have to go out of presentation mode because otherwise it doesn't work. So
they've just moved now. That's fine now, Mark. Go.
Okay.
You can go. Keep going now.
Okay. So we have 40 letters of global support, and we have the largest number of EXO members in terms of the project partners, as well as the fact that we also have the largest number of SMEs of the pilot projects selected. Now, which means that one of the goals of our project has a lot to do with the focus on SMEs. Now, you've heard all the statistics, and in fact, I'm not going to bore you with any of the further statistics on SMEs and the issues related to cybersecurity. But at the same time, there are some elements that we're focused upon, including massive open online courses, MOOCs, and I'll mention that again as we go through the process here. I'm having a problem changing my slides now. Okay. Let's see if
Mark, do you want to pass the floor to us, and we'll. All right, that's fine. That's fine.
My apologies. My apologies. So the consortium partners, I'm not going to go through the 44 partners. I'm going to speak a little bit about our vision. The intention is to secure and maintain a healthy democratic society, also to boost the success of businesses, including especially SMEs, and protects the rights of citizens and in the EU against also cyber threats and security issues. Now, we have 5 pillars, which I think are in some ways similar to all of the other pilots as well. Including the governance component, including the cybersecurity innovation and demonstrating European leadership there, and also supporting the complete industrial value chain. That means, again, as well, with this focus on SMEs, which in some cases have been somehow lost, as you've seen previously in the discussions and commentary and statistics. Our work structure has a number of synergies and a number of elements. You could see the governance piece, the research and innovation to industry, the education and training and standardization, and the communication and community building. All elements, again, are looking at the entire marketplace, are looking not just at the largest players, not just at the medium-sized players, not just at the smallest players, but have elements geared for all levels of industry, community, and even the governance structure. At the same time, we're also doing 4 industry verticals, which again, in some ways, there are some areas where other pilots are doing verticals in similar areas, but our approach can be quite different. So we have a transport vertical, which includes a maritime transport component. We've got a health vertical as well, finance vertical, and also a smart cities and communities vertical. Of course, our idea is to also match our industry demonstrators with a blueprint for research, which is one of the outcomes of the Cybersec for Europe project. At the same time, looking at research and integration, at the same time looking at the regulatory elements. But something which is very key for us are the regulatory issues, which are citizen friendly and also SME friendly, because some of the regulations, when they're enacted, are not always as SME friendly as they are friendly for larger industry players. Of course, education, training, and standardization is part of our equation. And as I previously mentioned, we are actually looking at formal, professional, and non-traditional skill building, which includes these massive open online courses with the idea of actually branding and having an education program with a pilot specifically for delivery of these courses. And of course, cyber ranges, which I know that others are looking at, which also are part of this education and training process. Of course, we're actually also looking at open source areas and infrastructures for cyber ranges, and also open tools. So at the end of the project, these will be available for use as well, not just as a matter of a focused test and then no longer part of the equation. So there'll be a long-lasting legacy from Cybersec for Europe. Standardization. We also are proposing and including quite a number of activities related to standardization and standards work. I know that there'll be a short discussion at the end of this webinar concerning one of the projects which is related to experts in standardization. So there are a number of elements that are already ongoing, and we're building upon those. At the same time, I'm going to talk a little bit about the cybersecurity stakeholders and our focus on stakeholder engagement. Of course, there are different elements here. There's legislative elements, there are the technical elements, there are the business elements, there are the social elements, and of course, there are the scientific elements. And all of these have to be addressed in such a way so that when you do have regulatory aspects that are positively affecting cybersecurity, you don't negatively affect the business environment. You don't negatively affect the social environment. You don't negatively affect how security is implemented and how people's lives are affected. You have to find the best balance between securing everything, but at the same time allowing people and communities to live their lives and to do the business in the right ways. So we have a number of communication and dissemination elements, spreading awareness, which includes this webinar. Also the research and innovation in industry, the relationship between industry and the research community. And of course, one very key point is the community empowerment and innovation fostering, of which, again, this is one of the elements that we're doing today. We're actually demonstrating, and we're doing this close relationship clustering activity, which you can see in the lower left of this slide, with respect to the other projects, with respect to communicating, with respect to working together. And I think that there are a lot of opportunities, not just from the standpoint of the other pilots, but the broader community of the cybersecurity project, the broader community of the European Cybersecurity Organization, the broader community of digital trust in digital life, the broader community of the Digital SME Alliance. All of these components fit together in the grand scheme of things, because in our pilot, our intent is to be able to have the best possible set of inputs and feedback to be able to, as a result, have a governance approach, a roadmap, a number of different roadmaps, of course, which include the thought process of all of the stakeholders and all of the communities which are concerned. That's the basic idea of Cybersec for Europe. We are coming together with, of course, the other 3 pilot projects. And you're very, very welcome to visit our website. And of course, we're here to answer questions. Thank you.
Mark, thank you very much for that overview. We do have a couple of questions actually in our chat, and I was going to skip this, but it was actually related, and it will also give food for thought for our 2 other projects coming in next. And it's how you talked about verticals, and I appreciated that Guillaume also is dealing with a similar vertical in his pilots. So obviously seeing what each other do is I know you stressed that, but it's clearly vital that there's a sort of best practice exchanged, I imagine. The question on the chat is actually, how are the SMEs within the pilot projects plan to collaborate? Are you going to create a timeline between the 4 of you where you mutually do things together? And then the second question, that's just thinking out loud, but I'll leave the question to you speakers. And the second one is, how are you going to use, how the pilot project is going to take advantage and utilize the cyberwatching.eu outcomes, and specifically the marketplace? Who would like to pick that up?
Well, I can start with just a few comments about this.
Go ahead, Mark.
The different pilots are intended by the European Commission to approach things differently. So in terms of actually mixing our demonstrators together, at this point in time, the intention was not to mix our demonstrators together, but rather to have differing outcomes so that the European Commission could look at our roadmaps and basically pick the best of the best. This works, this doesn't work, this is good, this is bad. And also even the industry demonstrators, the industry verticals, our finance vertical is all about PSD2, which is different than the finance elements of some of the other pilots. Our transport is focused on maritime transport, which again is different than some of the other pilots. So from that standpoint, the intention was to have essentially 4 different pilot projects with a number of different elements in them, which could be compared one to the other. And again, we've even looked at these pilots and we've even looked at our verticals just to see where the overlaps were, if there were any overlaps, as well as to look at planning for the future, because we also have a set of meetings planned as the 4 pilots together to look at what our results are, and are we able to benchmark certain things and be able to say, okay, there's some best practices from this, some best practices from that, and putting it all together in a snapshot picture for the European Commission. Now, when it comes to SMEs, we have SMEs embedded in all of the different industry verticals, for example, in our case, and they are part of our equation. So when we have the discussion, when they are part of the project, their input is as valuable as the input of all of the other stakeholders. So from that standpoint, it is an integrated process, but it's each pilot doing their own approach in their own verticals.
Right,
Maybe
a quick question.
About it.
Yeah,
I just wanted to be very brief.
Can I
Go,
interfere? May I say something?
Go,
Mark?
Ninetta. Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you. Well, the thing is, I understand the verticals are different. However, you may involve the SMEs of the other projects in your, for example, requirements analysis phase, in the evaluation phase, in the testing phase. So you can, this way, you can have the consensus of many more SMEs on the specific, for example, challenge. And also you may have more testers for your pilot phases. So I do not see the problem there, and actually it's indeed desired to invite the SMEs from cross pilot projects to provide their input on the design of the requirements, and also of probably the testing of your platforms or products, and also on your exploitation efforts. So it would be nice to see the SMEs of the 4 projects to interact even in different test cases or different challenges.
That is actually already built into the thought process of the regular annual meetings that we have. So it's actually in there in our consultation meetings, which are actually an extension, well extended beyond the consultation meetings that are in CyberWatching. We have consultation meetings already built into the CyberSec for Europe project, which include all of the other projects, all of the other SMEs, etc. So this input and feedback mechanism we've already also put into our process, albeit the results are going to be, again, pilot by pilot.
Just before I pass the floor, thank you, Ninette and Mark, to Guillaume, I think you wanted to say something. I don't know whether the 4 projects have thought of doing a joint roadmap at the end that incorporates perhaps SME recommendations from the pilots or some sort of joint policy brief. Is this on the, could this be an option as well?
Okay, well, I just wanted to say that about Concordia, it's not closed, and actually everyone may apply to Concordia. So to be brief, just call us and well, we'll see. And otherwise, about your last question, well, I don't know.
It's the same for CyberSec for Europe in terms of being able to apply and be part of the project when it comes to the SMEs especially.
The same, this is Fabio Martinelli, the same applies to SPARTA, that is the concept of SPARTA Associates that I'm going to describe later, that allow partners and SME to cooperate with the SPARTA consortium in a structured manner.
Okay, with that, let's move on then. Thank you very much, Mark, for that presentation and for the questions, which are very relevant. Our next speaker is Matteo Aldo, who's a project manager from REA Group and is representing ECHO, which looks to strengthen EU cyber defense through effective and efficient multi-sector collaboration. So over to you, Matteo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can, Matteo.
Oh,
yes,
perfect.
We can see it. Go.
Thank you very much. So, hello everybody, I'm Matteo Aldo. I work in REA Group as a project manager, and within ECHO, I act as project implementation coordinator, which is basically a sort of a project manager, technical project manager. So I will answer part of the questions that has been made before during my presentation, and the focus is on the multi-sector, and of this presentation is the focus of the assessing of the multi-sector requirements, which is one of the most common issues within the cybersecurity landscape in Europe. So, of course, our 4 pilots are going to create a network of competence centers, which is one of the needs that EU felt and is feeling in these years. But what we understood during the construction of the project, during the build-up of the project, is the fact that there is a lack, at least in Europe, of effective means to assess multi-sector technology requirements and security across different security disciplines. We also assess the fact that there is a lack of effective means to assess dependencies between different industrial sectors in different cybersecurity disciplines. And of course, going a little bit more towards the technical side, we feel that there is a lack of realistic simulation environments and ways and means to share knowledge and situational awareness across boundaries, across organizations, even inter-organization. And then we believe that there is a fragmentation in cyber skills. And so what we would like, as you will see later, we'd like to build a cyber skill framework, which is quite similar to the concept that other pilots, of course, are proposing. We believe that those kind of topics, those weaknesses, are particularly relevant for SMEs, due basically to the somehow, let's say, usual limited cybersecurity capabilities, despite the increasing needs in terms of proper cyber defense posture. So we believe that those weaknesses can be quite relevant for SMEs, and the way in which we propose a solution is basically to build, of course, a network of cyber research and competence centers, which will be organized, at least at the beginning, in the first 2 years, by a central competence hub, in order then to spread a little bit more towards a peer-to-peer hub. That's part of our governance model that we are going to build. But also we would like to address the aforementioned weaknesses, building an adaptive model for information sharing, and the delivery and the research and development of technology roadmaps, which could be multi-sector, but also focusing on the single needs of the single sector and on the dependencies with other sectors. In terms of innovation, so what we are going to build, practically speaking, we identified 6 main points. So the eco-governance model, the eco-multi-sector assessment framework, which is basically the foundation for assessing requirements and needs for the other innovations that we are building, the cybersecurity framework and training curriculum, the security certification scheme, the federated cyber range, and the early warning system. I'm going to express these 6 points in the next slides. So for what regards the eco-governance model, the governance model that we are going to build, of course, is going to govern the network of competence centers, but also to assess how new partners can enter within the network. One of our goals is to engage at least other 15 partners other than the 30 that we already have. So we are already quite active on that. There are several applicants in this since the beginning of the project in February. And our intention is really to enlarge the network, because enlarging the network is going also to bring validation and new requirements, of course, for our technological platform and for the technological roadmaps. So in terms of things that we're going to offer, and that's relevant, or we believe that could be relevant for SMEs, is the fact that the new partners are going to have access to our ECO early warning system, to the Federation of Cyber ranges, which we believe could be particularly relevant for SMEs, especially small SMEs with needs of cybersecurity trainings. We are going to give the access to the cyber skills frameworks and trainings, of course, what we are going to produce, not only in relationship to cyber ranges, of course, and then that could be also interesting, the participation in the technology roadmaps. So we are going to develop a set of technology roadmaps, which will be multi-sector and some others direct intra-sector, quite specific, sector specific, but we are not going to develop prototypes for each of these technology roadmaps. So it could be interesting for a new partner, for an SME, for example, to specialize, and with our guidance, with our collaboration, work together in order to develop prototypes within one of these technology roadmaps. So that we believe that it could be quite interesting. So going back basically to the foundation of by which ECO will be built, the multi-sector assessment framework. So the goal is to define a mechanisms for creating a technology roadmap, for developing technology roadmaps and demonstration cases. It will be risk-based, so a risk-based method for analyzing security needs in multi-sector, and we are going to include, of course, inter-sector opportunities, and that's particularly relevant because, for example, cybersecurity solutions in the space domain could be relevant also in the energy domain, but in the actual fragmented situation, that's not easily happening. And what we are trying to do, what we want to do, is to establish this framework that will be able to leverage on these build up of dependencies between different sectors in the cybersecurity, in different cybersecurity disciplines. Then, of course, we're going to provide an analysis of potential contribution to the technology roadmaps from different security disciplines, considering risk management, incident detection, cryptography, network security, and whatsoever. And then we're going to tackle in the specific sectors which we are focusing the most for our pilots, specific needs which we can link to needs from other sectors. We are going to develop, as I was saying before, as a result from the requirements built up from the multi-sector assessment framework, a set of a cyber skill framework. The goal is to improve, since there is a lack of cybersecurity specialists in Europe, our goal is really to improve the human capacity of cybersecurity across Europe. Of course, we are going to leverage on the work of EXO, for example, European Qualification Framework and so forth, but the idea is really to build up a common cyber skill reference, which can be horizontal, but also specified in the single sector in which we are managing our pilots. And the trainings will also be based, and that's something that we believe could be interesting, not only on traditional, let's say, trainings, but leveraging on our Federation of Cyber Range and on our early warning system. So going a little bit more towards the technical part and our technical production, let's say, the Federation of Cyber Range is something in which several partners were already discussing and debating while we were preparing the proposal for this project, but even in the years before. So we have several partners with the cyber ranges using different technologies. And something that we learned is the fact that each cyber range has its own specialization, its own capacity, not only in terms of virtual machine that they can instantiate, but also in terms of simulation capabilities. For example, for what regards RIA cyber range, we are specialized in space missions simulations. But it could be interesting, it's very interesting to be able to merge the capacity from multiple cyber range in order to offer a more integrated and more comprehensive kind of offer. So we are going to develop this portal and using a broker that is going to propose to the end users some capacity of the cyber ranges that will be interconnected. Of course, there are a lot of technical complexities here, but we really believe that, for example, an SME could benefit of that, because an SME usually doesn't have the means to build a full cyber range, but using our portal, our broker, they should be able to obtain the simulation from, for example, a research and development perspective, and also the trainings leveraging on our cyber skill framework. And of course, we are going to use the Federation of Ranges in order to develop and demonstrate the technology roadmaps that has been identified by the multi-sector assessment framework. For what regards the early warning system, something that we strongly believe is that there is a lack of information sharing in Europe, especially even intra-organization, but especially across organizational boundaries and national borders. So the early warning system has the goal to share information, cybersecurity information, coordinate and share, and support the security operation, for example. But not only, also trainings and incident management for creating common workflow and so forth. Something that we want to tackle with that is also to be fully compliant with the personal information protection laws, so GDPR, for example. And the early warning system is one of the technological tools that we offer to the new partners for being part of the consortium. And thinking about the collaboration with the other three pilots is something that we would like to offer, is to be part, at least some of the partners of the other pilots, to be part of our early warning system network, let's say, because this would give us more validation, the solution that we are providing, and of course would stay perfectly in the roadmap of what we want to build for Europe. So the cybersecurity certification scheme.
A couple of minutes left, if you don't mind. Okay.
Yeah, I'm almost done. The cybersecurity certification scheme will be leveraging on the EU cybersecurity certification framework from ENISA, but the idea is to provide a sector-oriented cybersecurity scheme. And of course, this is going to leverage the digital single market, and at the same time to will be, of course, interconnected to the Federation of Cyber Ranges for simulation capabilities and then testing capabilities. So the demonstration cases will be based on 3 main sectors: health, marine, and energy. And we already identified at least 5 demonstration cases using the technologies and the technology roadmaps that we're going to provide. But these demonstration cases will be applied to these intersector scenarios that we're going to build between health, marine, and energy. So in terms of benefits, and I'm done after that, of course, we are going to target the practical use of our outcomes. So, for example, I'm just listing a couple of them which could be relevant for large and also small and medium enterprises. The combined use of the Federation of Ranges and the Cybersecurity certification scheme for certified qualification testing could be interesting. But of course, the usage also of the Federation of Cyber Ranges for simulation of cyber attacks or also for trainings. So all these outcomes are targeted to be very practical and with also technology readiness level quite high in order to really be able to go to the market and propose something to the new partners and then to the future. And those are our contacts. Of course, feel free to contact us at info@econnector.eu or in the website or Twitter or whatever, or my personal email, what you want. Thank you very much. And thank you to CyberWatching for this opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Matteo, for the interesting input. Very nice, the part around the human capacity and the cyber skills reference and these technology roadmaps. I do think something that's coming out is clearly how this all then glues together. So obviously, this going forward, I think needs to probably, it's my opinion, you might disagree with me, take on a much more sort of consolidated group effort, but that's for something for you projects to think about and perhaps for CyberWatching to facilitate as the support action. So our final project is SPARTA. And I'd like to introduce you all to Fabio Martinelli. He's a research director at the National Research Council of Italy, where his interests evolve around security and privacy in distributed and mobile systems, foundations of security and trust. Now, Fabio's presentation is SPARTA, rethinking the way cybersecurity research is performed in Europe. So over to you quickly, Fabio. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the presentation. Thanks for organizing this webinar.
Fabio, sorry, do you want to put your presentation in presentation mode? Can you do that?
I did it. I think I have the same problem of
as Mark.
Of Mark. So I'm
okay.
trying to not to exactly now. I'm trying to continue the presentation. I hope that now works. Okay. So basically, I will recall the approach, the structure, and the main research programs that we have in SPARTA, as well as the concept of SPARTA partnership. And here it would be interesting because we have the notion of SPARTA associates that will cooperate with the SPARTA consortium to create the network, although their duties will be minimal. And they introduce the concept of SPARTA monthly events and the joint competence center. The main rationale of SPARTA has been to have something really challenging, like when the Russians won the race to the space, launching the first satellite, then there was an immediate reaction because we had a strategic surprise, and the idea was to develop something risky and complex and concrete to immediately answer this achievement from, let's say, the Western world. And then that's it. The idea is to have something very, very challenging, like launching the man to the moon and answering the current situation where has been mentioned by the previous colleagues that there are really high risks for cybersecurity. And so achieving a really high impact, addressing relevant challenges. And this is the spirit of SPARTA. So we want to develop unique and concrete innovation paths, set up shared and virtual spaces for collaborations, our infrastructure, strengthening certification, outreach and training capacities in Europe, and pulling together the community, having together the European, national, regional ecosystems involving clearly also the SMEs. ecosystem. What we want to achieve overall is the European strategic autonomy. The structure, this is already tells you something about our organization already. As we see the Competence Center, we have a strategic direction, a partnership committee. I am the partnership director of this committee, a roadmap committee, ethics committee, and awareness and training task force, as well as dissemination and certification. All these keywords has been heard before because they are at the heart of any competence center. And then we have also the research programs with the program lead, the program support staff, and we identified several of them. And I think it's interesting also to see our, let's say, work package structure, where we have the governance, work packages 1 and 2, the community services activities 8 and 9. I coordinate work package 8 on clustering and platforms, and the exploitation activities from work package 10 to 12. And then we have the 4 research work programs. Interesting, when we set up the consortium, basically we have 44 partners ranging from university, RTO, companies, small and medium enterprises, centers and governance authority. And as you see, there are several clusters of them from France, Italy, Germany, where most of them are represented, as well as Spain and many other countries. We wanted to put together basically all the ecosystem. And as you see, there is definitely the attention also to large corporates as well as to SME. These slides has been from the very beginning in our slide set. In terms of research programs, I think our path was interesting. We wanted to be able to run this exercise, starting from an initial roadmap, identifying the opportunities and the risks, and in this, let's say, initial general framework, have a specific call for proposals. And the call for proposal. These were evaluated before the submission of the project, although because this is just a sort of time framework. In the future, we would like clearly to have open roadmaps and open call for proposals. Once the effort has been, let's say, accepted, we identified a specific work plan, specific teams, and we started to achieve some results, and definitely those will be available at the end of the project. And what we want to have is measurable results. But overall, what you see in these slides is actually what should be the plan when the Competence Center will run. In this stage, we identified mainly 4 research programs. One on cyber threat management, full spectrum cybersecurity awareness. I heard something similar in, as far as I can understand, in the other pilots. Then another large program, continuous assessment in polymorphous environments. This is mainly related also to certification also in trusted supply chains. Then you have also another program, challenging program on IoT, assurance intelligent infrastructure, focused on IoT and security by design. And then there is another big area that is secure and fair artificial intelligence system that, you know, is another, let's say, challenging hot topic, not just from the cybersecurity perspective, but where cybersecurity has a lot to say. And this will be further developed in the next years. Then in terms of partnership, we have the concept of SPARTA partnership with the SPARTA associates. Well, I will elaborate a bit more. Clearly, as all the others, we want to cooperate with the European Commission, with JRC, with fellow ICT 03 research projects, as we are doing now. And this was, again, another plan to cooperate with the free CSA that the Commission set up, CyberWatch. You know, we are here exactly in this webinar contributing to this cooperation, Aegis with US and Unity for Japan, and also more recently Standard ICT. There is another great initiative that I think we should leverage upon all the pilots all together. I think EU energies as ENISA, EC3, EDA, and so on and so forth, organization EXO, RC, MyFIP, and so on and so forth. Clearly, this is really open. One characteristic of SPARTA is to focus essentially on member states. This is a very peculiar characteristic that has been chosen from the very beginning. Another interesting concept in my view is the notion of associates I was mentioning. These are organizations of any kind that do not sign the grant agreement, but are, let's say, but there is a memorandum of understanding, and we allow them to cooperate in accessing the SPARTA infrastructures, contributing to the roadmap, accessing to the SPARTA research programs, and attending the meetings. As you see, we have a specific logo for the SPARTA associates that is clearly related to the SPARTA partnership. So I think the fact that we gave this visibility is the attention that we have for this kind of partners. Let me then go more into the details, what we can do with the associates. And among the associates, clearly we can have large groups, SMEs, clusters, regional authorities, universities, associations. This is an ongoing, obviously, activity. Then they can contribute to the roadmap, to the getting research results, networking. If we look at the specific SME, there is the attention on the training, on the territorial animation, and the contributor to the incubators. And we have a specific mechanism. Well, webinar is definitely a lovely mechanism, but also in SPARTA we decided to have a more proactive approach, and we decided to have the SPARTA monthly workshops. The next one will be in Madrid, April 23-24, organized by Yes We Hack, an hacker community that we have in our consortium. I think this is a very relevant approach that we have a very wide kind of community embedding end users as well as hackers, white hackers, I would say, white hat hackers, and many others. So the monthly associate workshops is something where partners in one country organize an event, ask the associates, but also the SMEs and the local, let's say, potential associates or local people interested to cooperate in some way with SPARTA to be present. So they can comment on the roadmap, giving requirements, as Ninetta said, to the pilots, to the programs, to the evaluation of the programs, spread the SPARTA results, and so on and so forth. Each month there is one country represented. Well, let's say at least one country represented. In this sense, it is really a way to cluster and shape the local ecosystem. SPARTA follow an approach where clustering, regional, local, and then at European level, having these three levels. By the way, I think it's interesting to mention that SPARTA in Greek means also sow, spread the seed. And in some sense, this is what we are trying to spread, the seed of cybersecurity in Europe. If you want to join, just send me an email or to the project coordinator with SPARTA partnership request to join. There is currently we have 50 SPARTA associates. We are going to grow, but in a controlled manner. So it's not really automatic that all the partners requested to join will join. They need to have some specific capabilities and specific interests, both for SPARTA as well as for at national level and the European one. We have also, as the other partners mentioned, a joint competence center infrastructure where we are planning to have virtual education labs, cyber range, and the usual communication platform. The interesting part is that, again, we can allow, when we are writing the terms of reference, SME either to use or to contribute to this infrastructure in one way or another one, and either through licensing or through other mechanisms. We think that it will be crucial in this sense also to have the expertise of the SMEs in shaping and contributing to the joint competence center infrastructure that also goes under my work package responsibility. And I think it is very good that we are here in this webinar also because all the other partners are this kind of infrastructure, and also maybe not now, but considering at the end of the project to merge part of this infrastructure among the 4 pilots, and I'm likely referring for sure to the cyber range, I think it will be an interesting results for all of us, including the small and medium enterprises. So basically, this is the message I wanted to spread, and that's it. And these are the communication information if you want to interact with SPARTA. Thank you.
Fabio, thank you very much. Also here, some interesting innovations, especially this part around the associates, but also these monthly workshops. See, that's a good opportunity, I presume, for the other 3 projects to come in, find out which of the partners from the other projects are actually physically there in the workshop that you're organising, and they can see to attend that. Was this something that you could option? Yeah.
Well, Silvana, with all the other projects, and actually Mark is an animator of this, we already set up opportunity for joint meetings. For this, we more envisage, I mean, always the 4 pilots are very welcome, but we in particular envisage the SPARTA days that are bi-yearly events, should be in September and February, where we already hosted all of them, and we do plan to do in the future, but also the SPARTA monthly events are a very good opportunity, as you mentioned. And in this, I think we have already planned more than 10 events together with the 4 projects, and I think we should really foster this. Maybe not just picking each other, but also working together.
Sorry, you've already scheduled, Fabio, 10 events already with the other 3 all 4 of the Competence Centre projects. You have these scheduled, did you say?
I think Mark can answer better than me. if Mark hopefully is still, yes, but we scheduled some of them the next year.
Okay.
There's a consultation event scheduled for the 13th to the 15th of November. Most likely, the main event for that will be on the 13th in Toulouse, and of course, we'll make sure that everyone as well who has signed up for this webinar will also get an invitation for that conference.
Yeah, but then we have also the meetings, Mark, that we organize with EXO, the meetings that we organize the other Concordia and do. So we have more than monthly meetings among ourselves. That I think is exactly what we should do.
Exactly. So there are a lot of meetings actually that will be interacting together. And again, there will be annual events, but there are also some very, very regular points in the process as well.
Mark,
let
just
me,
to...
can I let me
Ninetta, go.
Yeah, you know, of course, all dissemination activities are very welcome. However, we would like to see specific key performance indicators for every meeting. For example, what is the original goal? What do you want to achieve with this meeting? And after the meeting, what did you gain? What is the outcome? So I would appreciate, I always say this to my projects, quality and not quantity. Targeted outcomes that can be reported, they can be measured, and we can have outcomes from each dissemination activity. So all of your efforts will not be wasted. And with this final remark, I would like to thank very much CyberWatching, all the participants, and thank you for inviting me in this webinar, and have a nice day.
Thank you very much, Ninetta, and thank you, Mark. So for that's a fair point. Maybe for CyberWatching, we can put an events calendar together so we have everything tracked as well, so we can give you the appropriate visibility for this for all 4 projects. I think that might be a nice idea for us to do if you all agree that we do that. Our final speaker, we wanted to take advantage clearly of this webinar to capitalize on your efforts around standardization. And I know Mark Miller mentioned this, and because of the rolling plan in ICT standardization, Netta mentioned it also as in the future call. Stand ICT is a support action that delivers funding to experts who contribute to working groups around different areas. And one is, sorry, can one of you mute, please? One of the areas is clearly around cybersecurity, network and information security. So we wanted to just zoom in quickly, and I want to pass the floor to Francesco Zimanti, who's at Trust IT. He's the Deputy of Stan ICT. which supports EU experts in international standardization activities. So over to you briefly, Francesco. Thank you.
Yes, good morning. I hope you can hear me properly. I'm Francesco Zimanti and I work for Trust IT, and I'm the Vice Coordinator of the StandICT.eu project. I'm really grateful to be here today to introduce you this initiative, because I think it's a very great opportunity for all the ICT experts to give their contribute to the creation and even to the development of new standards in the landscape, international landscape scenario, and to have and to bring your word in this in these activities. So what I'm going to do is give you a brief overview of what the project is in a nutshell. Okay. So here we are. Well, you can see here the main objective of the project. The project has begun 1 year ago, and it goes to span throughout the whole 2019, and it is run by Trust IT Services and Fraunhofer Sky as a main partner. The main objectives is supporting the participation of the ICT standards expert in the development of the standards landscape and on a global basis. But at the same time, we want to bring the European priorities mostly reflected in a rolling plan for ICT standardization in these working groups and in the main SDOs working on an international basis. And we want also to raise awareness on the advantages of adopting ICT standards also for SMEs. You can see on the left side of the slides a breakdown of the different typology of grants available that you can apply for. The project can rely on an overall budget of 1.4 million for the 8 open calls. And by the way, now the 6th open call is up and running until the end of April. And we are really proud to count on a very influential expert advisory group and an external pool of evaluators that are really helpful for us to carry out the project on a daily basis and to choose really the most competent and the most brilliant application from all the ones we are going to receive. You can see here a snapshot of what we achieved so far. I think some fact and figures are very useful to give you an understanding of what happened. We achieved more than 300 eligible applications from very competent ICT experts, and we have been proudly able to fund 152 grantees. As you can see, we have a pretty wide coverage of the European countries. The applicants come from all over Europe, from at least so far from 20 EU member states and other 3 associated H2020 members countries. And even the topics covered it's really vast. But what I want to mention here is that the cybersecurity is by far the trending topic. So there are a lot of cybersecurity experts involved in this field that are fully aware of what StandICT can do for them. And we have, as you can see here, several testimonials of people that are pretty enthusiastic of our initiative, and they are putting in place a huge effort to develop further cybersecurity related standards. Of course, there are other topics that are pretty remarkable and very, very popular, especially IoT and 5G and big data, but still cybersecurity is on top of that. StandICT is not just about giving money to ICT standards and support them, but it's also we also carry out a very attentive and careful mapping work in order to give a coverage of what's happening in the standardization field on a global basis. So we put up on our website, and you can see it. You can see here the main page of our Standards Watch. It's our interactive living tool that gives a full. So far, it's a partial coverage, but we are progressing on that, because we are going to try to cover all the 5 areas of the digital single market plus the artificial intelligence. So we're going to, if you're going to look up in few weeks and few months, we're going to find a careful gap analysis in the standardization, and even the work that our applicants are carrying out in these weeks is going to be reflected and mirrored inside the standard watch. I'd like to thank you again to give me this opportunity to put the STAND ICT initiative into spotlight in front of you. And I would like to remind you both to keep up with us on our social media and on our website. And at the same time, I still remember you that the sixth open call is still open, and 2 more are to come from here to the end of the year. And I'd like to warmly invite you to collaborate to work with us, because we have an ICT Insights section within the website. And if you are, as I believe, involved in the cybersecurity work and standards, you can provide us with your job, submitting your article or news pieces. Just joining the link you can see in the bottom right of the slides. So thank you again for allowing me to be here with you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Francesco, for introducing STAN ICT very briefly, because we think it's relevant clearly for your 4 efforts that are working on standards, as highlighted by some of you. So we've wrapped up our agenda. I want to open the floor. Well, first of all, I would like to thank all our very active and dynamic speakers with their enthusiastic insights on each of their projects and what can be done. I think there were some interesting takeaways in terms of impacts, what can be done on the gluing aspect of the 4 of you. I can see areas where cyberwatching can support, and this is going to be picked up clearly during the consultation. I think Guillaume has some insights he wants to give in before shooting off. So I'm passing the floor to Guillaume and anyone else who wants to say some final words before we stop off. Thank you very much. Guillaume?
Indeed, I wanted to thank Fabio, because I think this is an achievement of this webinar. So this invitation to go to this SPARTA's meeting, and I think that on the Concordia side, we will do the effort to do that. Okay, thank you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Guillaume, for that support. If no one else has any other questions, as I said, slides will be available. You have individual email addresses or contact email addresses to follow up on this. I do think this is something we should be repeating quite soon, so we can also measure some impacts, which would be interesting also from a generic perspective too. And I'd like to thank Rita for setting up on this side, Digital SME Alliance also for the outreach activities, and all of the speakers once again. I wish you a wonderful day and thank you very much for your support. Thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye, thank you.